Coaches usually hate players who walk. They say that if you're not running, you don't feel the game, that soccer is sacrifice, speed, intensity. But Lionel Messi has always been something else. While everyone else is desperately chasing the ball, he walks. He moves forward, observes, analyzes, and when the rest are just starting to understand what's happening, Messi already knows what's about to unfold. Every step he takes, every glance, is part of an invisible plan. He doesn't need to run because he's already one step ahead of everyone. His game doesn't rely on the speed of his body, but on the speed of his mind. At Barça, he walked among legends and made them look mortal. At PSG, surrounded by stars, his stride still dictated the rhythm of the game. With Argentina, he walked his way to eternal glory, no rush, no mistakes. And at Inter Miami, every step he takes remains art in motion. Because Messi doesn't run, he thinks, he waits, and then he destroys. He walks, but he's always faster than everyone else. This is the story of the player who changed the rules of soccer without saying a word. The genius who turned the pause into his deadliest weapon. The man who, by walking, dominated the world of football. Let's begin. Rosario, Argentina, late 90s. A small boy, shorter than all his teammates, with the ball always glued to his foot and a gaze that seemed to read the game before it happened. That boy was Lionel Andres Messi. From the moment he first touched a ball, Messi didn't play soccer. He understood it. While others chased the ball, he stopped, observed, waited for the exact moment. It was as if time moved differently for him. While the others thought about running, Messi already knew where he needed to go. But his dream had an obstacle: his body. At 10 years old, he was diagnosed with a growth problem. The treatments were expensive, and his family couldn't afford them. In Argentina, several clubs closed their doors to him, until Barcelona appeared. The club didn't just bet on a fragile, unknown child, they also bet on a mind that was anything but ordinary. They offered him treatment, housing, and a spot at La Masia, Barca's dream factory. And there, on those training fields where legends were forged, Messi began to build his destiny. From the very first days, his coaches noticed something strange. Messi didn't talk much, nor did he raise his voice. But when he had the ball, the silence broke. His movements weren't impulsive. They were calculated. He walked between defenders, analyzed their gestures, and then destroyed them with an impossible change of pace. Messi walked because he was thinking. He read the game the way a chess player studies a board. While others ran on instinct, he walked by strategy. And when he decided to accelerate, no one could stop him. Frank Rijkaard was the first to understand it. The Barcelona first-team coach saw more than talent in that kid. He saw intelligence. He promoted him to the first team, where giants awaited: Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Deco. Established players, global idols. But none of them intimidated him. Ronaldinho, the smile of football, adopted him like a younger brother. In training sessions, he would watch him and say, "This kid is going to be better than me." And he wasn't wrong. The 1st of May, 2005, at just 17 years old, Messi scored his first official goal for Barcelona. The assist? Ronaldinho. And as the stadium erupted, Ronaldinho lifted him in his arms, laughing, like someone who knows he has just witnessed the beginning of something eternal. That moment was the birth of an era. The shy kid who dreamed of growing had become the heir to the Barca throne. But behind that timid smile, the same pattern remained. Messi played, but he also walked. He walked to understand, to read the rhythm of the match, to size up his opponents. Because even at 17, he was already playing at a mental level far above the rest. Messi didn't need to shout or run more than anyone. He only needed to think better. And that was his first great superpower. Messi's early years at Barcelona were an explosion of pure energy. A whirlwind that tore through defenses, broke systems, and turned every play into a wildfire. At barely 18 years old, Messi was a lightning bolt dressed in blaugrana. Every time he touched the ball, it felt like time stopped for everyone, except him. His acceleration was so explosive that defenders looked like they were moving in slow motion. He had an impossible blend of control, balance, and ferocity. It was football in its wildest form. Between 2005 and 2008, Frank Rijkaard's Barça was his laboratory. There, he learned to coexist with giants like Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Deco, but also to refine his chaos. Ronaldinho taught him the art of improvisation. Eto'o, the killer mentality. But what no one taught him was his ability to read opponents' movements while flying at full speed. Messi didn't run without purpose. He ran knowing exactly why he did it. His dribbles weren't reflexes. They were decisions calculated in milliseconds. Every change of pace, every feint, had a purpose. Even in his fastest era, he was already thinking like a veteran. On March 2007, at just 19 years old, the world understood that this kid wasn't a promise, he was a threat. Camp Nou, Clásico against Real Madrid. The score was 3-2 in Madrid's favor. Every Barça attack died at the feet of Sergio Ramos and Cannavaro, until Messi appeared. Minute 87. He receives inside the box, cuts inside, evades a defender, and finishes with his left foot. Goal. Hat-trick. 3-3. And a roar that shook all of Catalonia. That day, the Messi of the Clásicos was born. The kid who feared nothing, who faced Real Madrid as if it were a game in his backyard. He ran as if he had fire in his feet. But while everyone else overflowed with adrenaline, Messi stayed calm. A month later, in April 2007, came the play that sealed his destiny. Copa del Rey semi-final. Barcelona versus Getafe. Messi takes the ball in his own half. The crowd expects a pass, but he starts to run. He beats 1, 2, 3. Defenders chase him, but they can't catch him. The goalkeeper comes out, Messi slips past him with a subtle touch, and the ball goes in. The stadium freezes. Commentators don't know what to say. They had just witnessed the exact copy of Maradona's goal in Mexico, 86. But this time, the protagonist wasn't 26 years old. He was 19. That goal was a scream, a declaration, a warning. Football had just witnessed the air. At first glance, Messi looked like pure speed. But behind every run, there was a mind calculating. His eyes didn't follow the ball, they followed movements. While everyone looked at the present, Messi was already anticipating the future. That pause, that calm within the storm, was what made him different. It was the seed of his next evolution. Because even in his most explosive stage, Messi played with the mind of someone who doesn't need to run all the time. During those years, the world saw a kid running. But what was really happening was a brain learning how to dominate football without running. Every dribble, every sprint, every run against Getafe or Real Madrid were steps toward his next form, the Messi who walked. He himself understood it over the years. He didn't need to waste energy running after everything. He only needed to be in the right place at the perfect moment. And for that, running wasn't necessary. Thinking faster than everyone else was. Speed made him unstoppable. His mind would make him eternal. In 2009, Barcelona was broken. After years of glory with Ronaldinho and Rijkaard, the team had collapsed. Lack of discipline, excess ego, and a sense of an era ending. And then a young coach appeared, born from La Masia, with an idea as risky as it was brilliant. Pep Guardiola. He arrived with a mission: rebuild Barca from zero. And the first thing he said was clear and direct. The whole game will revolve around Messi. It was a risky decision. Messi was only 21, still not the locker room leader. But Pep didn't just see talent. He saw tactical intelligence, killer instinct, and a level of game understanding that no one else had. Until that moment, Messi played on the right wing. He started wide, took on defenders, dribbled to the end line, and finished with his lethal left foot. It was effective, but predictable. Guardiola wanted something more. He wanted to free his brain. He moved him closer to the center, surrounded him with Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets, and gave him a new position, one that didn't exist before: the false nine. He wasn't a striker, he wasn't an attacking midfielder. He was everything at once. A free player, floating between lines, moving in areas where no one knew whether to mark him or wait for him. And that's where the revolution was born. Pep's plan was simple but devastating. Opposing defenders were used to following strikers into the box. But Messi didn't stay there. He dropped deeper, walked, observed. The centre-backs looked at each other confused. Do we follow him or leave him? If they followed, they left gaps. If they didn't, he received with space. It was a mental trap. Messi began moving like a ghost between midfield and defence. He walked slowly, as if he wasn't interested in the play. But in reality, he was scanning everything. The position of rivals, the movements of his teammates, the invisible gaps. And when he found the weak spot, he attacked like a predator. A 3-second sprint, a 1-2 with Iniesta or Xavi, a subtle touch, a goal. Everything seemed improvised, but it was pure calculation. Messi no longer needed to run for 90 minutes. He only needed to run during the right 3 seconds. May 2, 2009. Santiago Bernabeu. Real Madrid versus Barcelona. Guardiola tests his invention, Messi as a false nine. The entire world wonders if it will work. And what happened that night changed the history of football. Messi drops into midfield, drags the centre-backs, opens space. Xavi recovers, and the ball lands at the feet of the 10, who finishes with finesse. Goal. Minutes later, the same play. The defenders no longer know whether to mark him or wait. Pass from Xavi behind the defenders, Messi appears again between the lines, left-footed finish to Casillas' near post. Goal again. Final score, Real Madrid 2, Barcelona 6. A historic humiliation, and the confirmation that football had entered a new era. The era of cerebral play, where thinking mattered more than running. At just 21 years old, Messi was no longer a winger. Every time he walked, the game breathed. Every time he stopped, the field tightened. And every time he accelerated, everything exploded. His apparent stillness confused defenders. Many thought he was disconnected, tired, or distracted. But the reality was different. He was programming the next attack. Messi didn't walk out of laziness. He walked because he understood the timing of the match better than anyone. He was a chess player moving pieces on a grass board. That season, Barcelona won the treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. Messi was the team's top scorer, but more than that, he was its brain. The false nine had been born, and with it, a new kind of football. The world stopped seeing the young player who ran non-stop, and started discovering the genius who controlled the match by walking. Between 2009 and 2012, football experienced a phenomenon no one fully understood. In a sport where everyone runs, shouts, and exhausts themselves, there was one player who chose not to. While everyone else emptied themselves, he simply walked. And with that gesture, he reinvented how to dominate a match. Lionel Messi didn't need to be involved in every play to control them. His power lay in observation. While the opponent ran desperately, he watched, analyzed, and memorized. He knew how defenders breathed when midfielders turned, and what spaces opened when fullbacks pushed forward. Where others needed to run to create danger, Messi only needed a blink, a touch, a pause, a feint, a minimal acceleration that broke the entire defensive structure. When he received the ball, time stopped. Opponents were trapped in his rhythm, as if the match shifted to revolve around his breathing. It was the dance of absolute control. In 2011, he reached his tactical peak. He was no longer just the false nine, but everything revolved around him. Xavi and Iniesta sought him instinctively, knowing that every touch of his could be the beginning of the end. And then came the 2011-2012 season, the year of impossible records. 73 goals, 32 assists. A number that didn't just break statistics, but the very logic of the sport. Messi didn't need to accelerate to destroy. He dismantled opponents from calmness. He made them run in circles, empty themselves, despair. until suddenly, without warning, a through pass, a soft touch, a surgical finish. Goal. Every action of his was a lesson in efficiency, not a step too many, not a useless movement. It was absolute precision. Many coaches can't stand players who walk. They see them as a symbol of apathy, of disconnection. But Messi was different. He walked because he knew when to wait. He knew where to appear. He knew that football isn't always won by running, but by understanding what's going to happen before the opponent does. The most terrifying thing wasn't watching him run. It was watching him walk. Because when Messi slowed down, the entire stadium held its breath. Everyone knew something was about to happen. It was like the calm before the storm. A suspended moment, where the genius analyzed the board before making his final move. His pause became his signature. A simple gesture, but full of threat. A signal that said, "I already understand everything." And then, the goal was inevitable. Between 2009 and 2012, Messi wasn't just the best player in the world. He was football's greatest thinker. He transformed the way the game was interpreted, proving that genius isn't measured in kilometers run, but in the ability to see what no one else can see. Walking, Messi became the architect of time. He decided when to accelerate, when to pause, when to strike. And in that perfect balance between silence and explosion, the most lethal version of Messi was born. The Messi who didn't run after the ball, but made the ball run after his mind. Time forgives no one. But for Messi, the passing of the years wasn't an enemy, it was an ally. His body changed, his speed dimmed a bit, but his mind became a more finely tuned instrument than ever. The electric kid from 2007, the one who dribbled past everyone without thinking, now thought so much that he no longer needed to dribble. He stopped being the arrow flying toward the goal, and became the bow that launched everything. The era of the MSN arrived. Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. Three different styles united by one mastermind. Neymar was fire, pure improvisation. Suarez was instinct, hunger, and strength. And Messi was the brain that made them coexist. The most terrifying thing about that Messi wasn't his goals. It was his impossible passes. That ability to find an invisible line between 8 legs, a gap that seemed not to exist. It was as if he saw the match from a camera no one else had. As if he knew what was going to happen 3 seconds before it occurred. That vision transformed him into a total creator. He was midfielder, forward, and strategist all at once. He could start the play from midfield and appear seconds later to finish it inside the box. In that absolute calm, Messi reached a form of dominance that bordered on the mystical. He no longer needed to humiliate with dribbles. A pass, a flick of the ankle, a glance was enough. Football was his, even when he didn't touch the ball. Between 2014 and 2017, Messi was more complete than ever. He scored, assisted, directed, controlled. He was the alpha and the omega of every play. In 2015, Barca won the treble again. But beyond the titles, what amazed everyone was how effortlessly Messi dominated the game. His goal against Bayern, breaking Boateng before chipping it over Neuer, wasn't just a brilliant play, it was a signature. The signature of a player who knew there were no limits anymore. Messi no longer needed to run after the ball, because the ball ran toward him. He no longer needed to impose fear with speed, because his silence made him even more terrifying. He was the total Messi, the one who could win a match with decisions alone, the one who had taken football from the muscle to the mind. And so, walking, he broke systems, rewrote tactics, and reminded us that genius isn't measured in speed, but in clarity. Modern football has become a spectacle of intensity. Everyone runs, everyone presses, everyone seeks to be the protagonist. And then he appeared, walking. After conquering everything at Barcelona, Messi arrived in Paris, the city of lights. And there, surrounded by stars, Neymar, Mbappe, and Ramos. But his light shone differently. He didn't need to dazzle. He only needed to think. At PSG, Messi wasn't the arrow, nor the false nine, nor the electric kid. He was the brain that united galaxies. While Mbappe attacked the spaces and Neymar danced through dribbles, Messi observed, analyzed, and with a simple touch, activated chaos. His passes broke lines that didn't exist for anyone else. His slow movements confused defenders. Sometimes he seemed disconnected from the game, but in reality he was weaving invisible threads between everyone. When Paris judged him for walking, they didn't understand that this was his language, the language of a genius who had already surpassed the need to run. Every time he touched the ball, the rhythm of the match changed. It didn't matter if he was surrounded by stars. The moment he intervened, everything revolved around his paws. Messi didn't compete with Mbappe's speed, but with something far more difficult: time. While the rest lived in the present, he seemed to play from the future. He knew when to stop the game, when to accelerate, when to disappear. He was an architect of seconds. Football's clock followed him, not the other way around. At PSG, many expected to see the explosive Messi of the past. But what they witnessed was something different. The wise Messi, the one who doesn't need to prove anything, the one who chooses when to be lethal. At 35 years old, in the World Cup in Qatar, the world once again witnessed that miracle. A player who walked to dominate. In every match, Messi seemed disconnected. He walked in the center circle, head down, eyes fixed on the grass. But in reality, he was reading an invisible map. He saw how midfielders rotated, how fullbacks pushed forward, how spaces opened between the lines. And when he understood everything, he activated. In a matter of seconds, he went from stillness to absolute genius. A control, a pass, a turn, and the opponent was left dismantled. Against Croatia, he exposed the best defender of the tournament, Joško Gvardiol, breaking him with a simple change of pace and a perfect pass. He didn't beat him with strength, but with calculation. It was the clearest demonstration of his evolution. The body may age, but the genius's mind knows no age. Messi had reached his purest form. He no longer needed to prove anything. He didn't play for speed or spectacle. He played to understand. Every touch he made had purpose. Every pause, meaning. And every slow step, a trap for the opponent. While others ran, he kept building the match in his mind. The Messi who lifted the World Cup was not the teenager from La Masia, nor the false nine of Barça, nor even the leader of the treble. He was the sum of all of them. The kid who dreamed of growing. The lightning bolt who shredded defenses. The strategist who turned silence into danger. And the wise man who walked among the stadium screams without losing calm. At 35, Messi didn't just play with talent. He played with memory. Every decision he made was a synthesis of 2 decades of perfect football. The world had seen him run, dribble, score. But now it watched him think football. And that was even more powerful. The boy from Rosario had traveled the entire map of football. From speed to calm. From instinct to thought. From impulse to total control. His legacy isn't only in the titles or the goals, but in having transformed the concept of playing. Because Messi wasn't just a footballer. He was the author of a new language. One where silence is worth more than noise, and where walking can be the most perfect way to attack. And when it seemed the journey had ended, football had one last gift: Miami. In a country where soccer is still searching for its identity, Messi became its new language. He didn't arrive as a fading star, but as a master who teaches with calm. In MLS, the rhythm is frantic, physical, uncontrollable. But Messi imposed another tempo. The tempo of someone who thinks before touching, of someone who teaches without speaking. At 36, he kept walking, but every step was a lesson. Every pass, a masterclass in how to dominate time. In Miami, Messi doesn't just score goals. He educates with his gaze. Young players follow him as if they were watching a living manual of modern football. And he, without gestures, without noise, shows them that genius doesn't age. Messi no longer plays to prove. He plays to transcend. Because at this point, his legacy doesn't belong only to football, but to the art of understanding human movement. Every walk of his is a metaphor for control, for patience, for the wisdom that only time can give. He no longer needs trophies, because his greatest title is having redesigned the way the game is played. He proved that football isn't about running after the ball, but about making the ball follow your thoughts. Football, in the end, returned to its origin. A game of intelligence, of instinct, of soul. And in that universe, there is only one name that sums it all up: Lionel Messi. The player who walked into eternity. He wasn't the tallest, nor the fastest. He was the one who saw everything before everyone else. Messi didn't walk out of lack of effort. He walked because he already knew how the play would end. And when he decided to act, the world stopped. If this story made you see football with different eyes, like the video, subscribe to Barca Cracks and activate the notification bell, because here we tell the legends who turned the game into a work of art. Messi doesn't run after the ball. The ball runs after Messi.